Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about the latest episodes of TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Now, this episode kind of shows you the flip side of what happened at the end of the last episode, where we see, the ship taking off without Ray, Kendra, I don't know why I called it Kendra, and Sarah. And basically we find, obviously we know that what happened on the ship is that Kronos attacked. Well, what really happened is that the team was trying to leave, trying to get to like the smaller ship on the ship, kind of like a shuttle ship to get away, but Kronos ended up hijacking the ship. For some reason he was able to hijack the ship, I guess some kind of technology he got from the Time Masters, and basically took the ship off. And basically they were trying to defend themselves, but basically through the scuffle, Kronos took Snart and left. Basically, he did something to the ship, and basically Rip had to restart Gideon, but it ended up leaving them kind of free falling throughout time. So basically back to Kendra, Sarah, and Ray. Ray's kind of keeping up the hope. It's like, oh, we should stay here, but Sarah's quick to be like, no, we should just leave. And basically they spend, eventually, time fast forwards a little bit at a time. First it was 10 minutes, then it was like a few hours later, then it was like 2 days later, and then it turned into like a few weeks later, particularly I think 10 weeks later. They had moved in, gotten to a new place. Ray was working on a device to, act as a beacon so that others know where to find them, but it kind of wasn't working. And Sarah was kind of like, you should just give up. If they haven't come after us, that means they're dead. Which to me was very surprising that just out of anyone, Sarah was the first one to kind of give up. And part of me can only assume that's part of, the League of Assassins training inside of her head. It's like, kind of like if you're left behind, you're left behind. You just have to, push on by yourself. I guess to me, after everything she went through, when she was away from home, the time between she was with, before she met with the League of Assassins and her time with them, maybe that changed her outlook on certain things like that. She's not, I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird that she was like the only one that was kind of gung-ho about being like, yeah. But I guess, I don't know, because in the beginning it seemed like she was more so like, okay, something happened, so they can't come back and get us. But now it's just like she was straight up, it's like, okay, if they haven't come and got us, then they're dead, which kind of makes sense, but still. So basically 2 years pass. Kendra is a librarian, and we have Ray, who is a teacher. He ends up, I like that scene where he's like, wait, your son is Bill Gates. It's like, Bill, I like that. I'm gonna go with that. Him and Kendra go on a picnic, and we see him have a wedding ring because he's about to propose to her, but then, finally Rip and the others show up and explain the situation. Sadly for, Ray, obviously he didn't propose to her, but the whole situation is kind of sad because Kendra was quick to just leave the life behind, and Ray was just kind of sad because he's like, we built this life together in these 2 years, and you're just so quick to be like, okay, fuck it. Now that the team's back together, she's so quick to leave it behind, because he's even talking about having to go back to pick up the Atom suit because he left it in the apartment. But he's like, okay, Kendra, what of yours do you want me to pick up? This that special mug of yours or whatever. She's like, no, like, we don't have to worry about that junk. And he's like, junk. It kind of broke his heart. Then they have to basically track down Sarah, and you end up finding out that Sarah went to Nana Barpat. I always forget that place's name, where the League of Assassins are. And she's basically been training on the Ra's al Ghul, or Raish. I'm not about to get into that. Then, get the big reveal finding out that, Kronos kidnapped Snart, and the reason why he did is because Kronos is actually Mick. Someone, I forgot what it was. I think it was on Superhero Roundup. Someone guessed that. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting. But the moment Kronos took only Snart, I was like, holy crap. They were right. Mick has totally got to be Kronos, and he was. But it's like, how do you guess something like that? I never would have guessed something like that. I get, because someone was like, oh, what if he froze, like during that whole situation between Mick and Snart, that he froze him. But basically, he just knocked him out and left him there. Because everyone else is kind of like, They were like, we were under the impression that you killed him. And Snart's like, I never once said that I killed Mick. And then Jackson's like, well, you sure as hell made sure we thought that. And basically, he had that moment, because basically, he was left there alone, and basically, eventually, he was about to go mad until the Time Masters found him. They recovered his body, they trained him, and he became Kronos. So this entire time, they've been hunted by another version of Mick, you know? Kind of interesting. He kind of even did a twisted thing where he was like, because he's so mad at Snart, because he's like, you were my partner, basically, you kind of abandoned me, that he was basically like, you know what, I'm going to find your sister, I'm going to kill her, and thanks to this whole time traveling thing, I can go back in time and kill her again, over and over again. It's like, that's pretty twisted of you. All the while this is happening, the group tries to sneak in and rescue Sarah from the League of Assassins, but it doesn't go their way because Sarah kind of got attached to being there, and she kind of let herself kind of fall back into that darkness a little bit, and she kind of turns on the team. And I love that scene where they're kind of, shackled up, and Kendra and Ray are kind of explaining their relationship a little bit, because basically Kendra hid the fact is that her powers kind of went dormant during that 2 years that they were together, and Ray's like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, you seem so happy, I couldn't ruin that. She was never happy because she's fine with who they are. Like, Ray was quick to abandon that mission of theirs, this grand mission of theirs of saving the future from Vandal Savage. And, she didn't want to take that away from him. And I love that, Stein was like, how do you think Ray feels? I mean, having to give up being the Adam, and Kendra's like, could you not, this is a private conversation, and Jackson's like, yeah, I wish you would keep this private. And side note, because of a commercial break, I ended up finding this out. I looked it up too, just to make sure I was saying specifically what region, but the actor who plays Jackson, his name's Franz Dima is his name, I think, is actually a British actor. I had no idea. He does a great American accent. It never crossed my mind until it was a commercial, the kind of, what kind of, the commercials that, they're, I forgot, are they Honda commercials or are they something else? I can't remember. With the cast members, sit down, they're in the car with Tiffany Smith, and, they go see those murals people draw of characters from DC. I mean, Legends of Tomorrow. And I heard him talking. I was like, oh, I had to make sure because I didn't want to end up saying he's British when he's not. But yeah, he's British. But basically, to get her away, from the League of Assassins, Rip decides to do their law. It's basically a trial by combat. It's basically the one-on-one fight. The whole thing Oliver and Roz did, when Roz initially, quote-unquote, killed him. That whole thing. And basically it's Kendra versus Sarah. Because even Roz interestingly had brought it up, how is Hunter so familiar with their laws? Because he brought it up early in the episodes. Apparently, at some point, he did an assignment on basically a report on the League of Assassins, and apparently, if I could be remembering this wrong, they've been around since 3200 BC or something like that. They've been around a long time. But basically, Kendra went up against Sarah, and I'll admit, she kind of held her own pretty well. But, Sarah kind of got the best of her. But, Kendra talked to her. It's like, this isn't who you are. You are the White Canary. And Sarah kind of snaps out of it. And then, before things could go any further, Kronos shows up. And the team kind of works together, takes him out. It was pretty epic seeing them fight together. You even see him, Ray kind of does a combo where he knocks Kronos up a little bit and then deals another punch to him. It looks so badass. Plus, Firestorm going around blasting him. You got Sarah going in, Sarah and Kendra going in close range. I even like that part where I think Kendra was flying up. She had her legs kind of wrapped around him and she kind of twisted and kind of threw him like that. It's just an amazing fight all around. And then before they could, finish off Kronos, Snart had, gotten free of the ship. He had Interestingly enough, he had to get free, he froze his hand, which was like, oh my, I was like, I didn't expect him to do that. I thought he was going to end up freezing the cuffs. I was like, he might damage his hands a little bit, but the whole purpose I thought was to freeze the cuffs. No, the purpose was to freeze his hand so he can shatter his hand and get out of the handcuffs that way. I was like, I was not expecting that. But he tells the group, shows the group that, it's Mick, and rather than killing him, they knock him out. And then when they finally do get back on the ship, because Roz did an interesting thing and he just let Sarah go. Wasn't expecting it because he saw that Sarah wasn't 100% dedicated to the league because inside of her, there was a struggle inside of her. So there's no point in, keeping her. And then, Sarah made a reference to Nisa, Roz's other daughter apparently, which I totally forgot he had another daughter. Nisa is his second daughter apparently. I thought that was his only daughter, but apparently not. Has Talia, isn't that her name? Like, has she ever popped up before? I think this entire time, because I'm slightly familiar with Roz, prior to Arrow, I knew him from like the animated Batman cartoon. And that, like the one from the 90s, and that one Roz's daughter, was that Nitsa or Talia? I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting the whole thing wrong. Anyway, moving on. Hunter was able to regenerate Snart's hand, and Snart's like, why didn't you tell us you had something like this on board? Because basically he had taken their DNA the first time they got onto the ship, and he's like, no one had lost a limb before now. So ended up regenerating his hand, and he also decided that he was going to help Mick, kind of revert him back to who he was. He says we have a grand opportunity, a chance to fix Mick, basically keep him from being the psychopath the flame starting psychopath he was before, but also keep him from being the time traveling bounty hunter psychopath he's become. Snart is like, just go ahead and kill him, but you have Ray being like, no, back at that prison when they were in Russia, he kind of bonded with Mick a little bit, and Mick even saved his life. And Jackson's also like, he's part of the team, we don't abandon team members. So they're going to try and save him. It's going to be interesting to see how they try and brainwash him. And at the same time, we have Kendra and Ray finally, making up. Basically, she kind of explains that she's happy for the first time, like, because throughout all her lives, especially her all connected past lives, she's able to choose who she wants to love for the first time. Her and Ray make out, and Ray, you also sees he hides the ring, which personally I'm thinking at some point it's going to happen. I don't know when, but eventually Carter's going to pop up and it's going to complicate things. I can already see that coming. Because I'm surprised he hasn't popped up before now, because I felt like at some point in time they're going to run into Carter, and basically she's going to have to be the one to train Carter and be like, okay, we're Hulk people and these are our powers and stuff like that. That she was the one, whereas he taught her about their powers, she's going to have to be the one to teach him. I feel like that's going to come up eventually. If not, at the very least by the end of the season, maybe that'll happen. I don't know. But they end up setting their course. Instead of going through the past, they're going to go to 2047, if I remember correctly, to track down Savage. And they're like, well, if you knew where a point in time he was, why'd you not tell us enough? Because basically he's saying there are dangers there. Hunter's saying that there's dangers there that he wanted to avoid at all costs. But at this point in time, there's little choice in the matter, so they have to go. So have to wait till next week to see where everything goes. But that's really all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.